All right, welcome in everybody to Comp Planning 101 with all our friends from CodaPath. I know Ryan, kind of take it off. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Milligan. I lead RevOps and the sales team here at QuotaPath. Been here for about 2 years now. And I'm doing a fun fact, right, Dylan?
Yeah, I was gonna see if you're gonna bring it up or not because I was gonna put you on the spot if you didn't. But go ahead.
So my fun fact is a big hobby of mine outside of work is that I write crossword puzzles. And I've had 2 crosswords published in the New York Times. So it's a fun world that I dabble in, and so I'm always happy to talk comp plans and probably even happier to talk crosswords whenever. So happy to be here. Very excited for this.
You gotta remind me so I can do one of your crossword puzzles and see how frustrated I can get.
I'll send you a couple links for sure. You can Google Ryan Milligan crossword; it'll come up too.
Power move. I like that. All right, Graham, you wanna go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Graham Collins, Chief of Staff at QuotaPath. I have been at QuotaPath for 5 years as of today. Today is my 5-year anniversary at QuotaPath, which I'm very excited about. I've held all kinds of different roles within the organization, but a big thing that I do is I focus on compensation strategy. So I help organizations think through exactly how to pay their sales teams, or their SDRs or their account management team. And that's what brings us to this today. My fun fact, one of my cousins is a K-pop star. She lives in Korea. She is a K-pop star. Her performing name is Alexa. If you want to look her up, she's pretty great. She's got millions of listens on Spotify, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. My son went through a K-pop era for about like 2 years. It was an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, cool.
I'm sorry, don't go ahead.
No, just saying lay of the land really quick. I know we had a couple people last join, but chat is always open. Make sure the top left button is toggled to everyone. And as we're going through, feel free to drop in questions, and Ryan or Graham will jump in and answer them in the chat or as we are going through the conversation. But with that, let's get things kicked off. Go ahead, Ryan.
Graham, you want to pull up the slides? We'll get started. So thank you everyone for coming. We'll do quick intros, and I'll act as your kind of MC for today from the QuotaPath side. Really, goal of this conversation is to lay some of the foundation for how you all could and should be thinking about your comp plans for 2024. This is Comptober, comp planning season. So a couple of things we'll lay out is it's kind of an overview here. First and foremost, we want to hear your questions. This is applicable if it ties into your comp plans specifically, like give you actionable advice. So please drop those questions in the chat, and I'll be monitoring, and we'll work from there. And then second is we will show this at the end too, but Graham noted we do a lot of comp plan consulting in the market. So we will share a way to book some time with us if you want to go into more detail about how you set up your comp plans for next year. So excited for that as well. And we'll go.
And it says 101 here. We also have the 201 course coming up next week. So if you haven't registered for that, please register for that a week from today. Awesome. This slide is the about slide as well, just so that y'all have it. This is back when I had much shorter hair and a full beard instead of a mustache. So I've changed a little bit since then. But one thing I also want to call out before we dive in is the Comp Trends survey. So we did a survey of 450 finance, RevOps, and sales leaders, and we compiled a lot of those insights into a study. Feel free to download that report, scan that QR code right there, pull out your phone, scan that QR code, and that'll actually get you right to the study. So one of my favorite stats in this is that pretty much everybody has challenges building sales compensation plans, designing sales compensation plans and sales compensation strategy. A lot of these we are going to be talking about around maintaining simplicity and lack of experience. So that actually brings us to one of my favorite charts, which is the experience curve versus difficulty of building comp plans. And so what you see here is that if you don't know anything about building a comp plan, you're likely to think that it's pretty easy. It's, hey, you just pay 10% commission, whatever. As you learn more and more about those comp plans, it actually gets increasingly difficult, which is kind of counterintuitive, is that as you know more, it gets harder because there are a lot more nuances. However, once you get over that hill there, into the valley of knowledge, I don't know, I just made that up. It actually gets a lot easier once you realize that a lot of it is just a kind of a math problem, to be honest. So, and I see some folks in the chat there. I assume that Ryan, you'll
I'm all over
keep
it.
it on. It's just somebody calling out my valley of knowledge. So we really are going to be focusing on compensation strategy right now. So we are going to be talking about a few specific compensation plans at the end here, specifically tailored for new business, so account executives or new business folks. But regardless of what role you're building a compensation plan for, there are 3 questions that you need to answer. So those 3 questions are: how much? So how much are you actually going to be paying this person? And that isn't just, what is their base salary, but it's what's their on-target earnings and what's their pay mix. We'll dive a little bit deeper into that. For what? So what is their quota or quotas? What are they tasked with doing? And how? What are the different commissions and bonuses that they're getting paid on? So every compensation plan needs to answer those 3 questions. Ryan, I can do a little bit of a pop quiz here. Are there any other questions that you feel like a compensation plan should answer?
One of the big ones for me would be how frequently is one that we would add to this thought process for different roles. How frequently do you want to set targets and how often? And then we'll jump into, I like Sean's, what are we not paying for? Hopefully that's kind of the inverse of what you're seeing here, but even potentially what are we paying less for is a fun way to phrase that, in terms of what activities do we not want to reward very well as related to the activities that we do. So those are probably the 2 ones that jump out to me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you had said how often, but also when is an important thing. And so, are you paid when the customer pays? Are you paid when the deal closes? Are you paid after the implementation is complete? So there are a bunch of different factors there as well. Terrific. So let's take a quick dive into each one of those different segments. So each one of those questions have a little bit more of a longer term answer to it. So again, how much is broken down into 2 different segments here. So on target earnings, or OTE, is how much someone can expect to earn if they hit exactly 100% of their target. Now, I'm really clearly laying that out there because oftentimes I come across organizations that say like, oh, well, the on-target earnings on this deal, on this plan is $100,000. And then come to find out, you can't, like, if you hit the quota, you're actually not earning $100,000. Maybe you're only earning $80,000, or maybe you're earning more than $100,000. And then implying that, hey, you actually, in order to hit your on target, you don't have to hit 100% of your quota. So the rule that I always say is that this is how much someone can expect to earn if they hit exactly 100% of their target. And then pay mix. So what percentage of your on-target earnings is base salary versus variable? This also it ranges drastically from 100% base salary and 0% variable to 0% base salary and 100% variable.
What's going on?
Oh, looks like we have somebody who, oh, thank you. And then we have
one thing on the how much that I will kind of call out here. This also very much depends on the role that Graham called out that you're talking about. So from a sales role, for example, pretty standard is this 50-50. You can see on this curve. Different roles tend to have different mixes of base and variable pay. And really the way that we talk a lot about it is scope of control tied to the role, right? So oftentimes an account manager or a customer success manager, for example, will be more heavily base than variable because they don't necessarily, on a renewal perspective, have quite as much of a scope of control in their variable than a salesperson who's like directly one-on-one tied to closing a deal, for example. You also see this in like more senior leadership, right? So oftentimes senior leaders, sales leaders, VPs of sales directors, what have you, won't be at that 50-50. They'll be at, 60-40 or 70-30 because they're managing a group of people who are managing the deals directly, right? So we talk a lot about scope of control and kind of how different roles tie to different base and variable mixes.
Awesome. I flipped through slides there. I thought that there's another slide that talks a little bit about exactly what you're saying, Ryan. When we get to that slide, I want to talk also a little bit deeper about why 50-50 is right. And so we'll get there. Don't worry. And then there's for what. And so quota isn't just the quota amount. That's absolutely an important thing. But to Ryan's point, how often does that quota attainment reset? Does it reset? Do you have a rolling attainment or do you have a cumulative attainment? Generally, we see quota frequencies of quarterly, monthly, or annually, and occasionally we see like semi-annual or weekly. I've seen daily quotas. Those are intense. I've seen one time a 2-year long quota because they had such a long sales cycle. But in the bottom right corner here, and you may have to squint or this deck may be shared out afterwards, but essentially the quota frequency, as your average sales price increases, your quota frequency extends. So from generally monthly, if you're sub 10K average sales price, to quarterly, to annually, or sometimes biannually. The same for the length of your sales cycle. If you're less than 1 month sales cycle on average, most of the time you're going to have a monthly quota. Whereas if you're greater than 6 month sales cycle, you almost never have monthly quotas. You're generally going to have quarterly or annual. And then how? Most people can also confuse commissions and bonuses. So I like to at least define them here, or the way that I think about them, which a commission is a percentage of a currency paid out. So that can be flat rate, single rate, you just get paid 10%, or they can include accelerators and decelerators and caps and cliffs and all kinds of nuances to them. And then there are bonuses, which is a set amount of money that you earn for doing something specific, which is like the most generic definition possible for that. But that can be something like you get paid $1,000 for every deal you close, or once you hit 100% of quota, you get a milestone bonus. So those are the different types of things. And generally we see anywhere between 2 and 4 commission or bonuses within a compensation plan. Ryan, do you have a take on how many we should include in comp plans?
Yeah, so I tend to, we talk a lot about comp plans and the drivers of comp plans being like pizza, a number of topics on a pizza. You never, 2's good, 3's pretty good. You never really want more than 3 is kind of the way that I think about it. You want somebody to very clearly be able to back into how much money they're going to earn if they close a deal with certain criteria. So I typically like rates, a core rate, accelerators on a rate based on different things, and then potentially some sort of bonus for achievement. Now, this also functions very differently based on different plans, which we'll talk about here. One thing we do want to call out is, some of the ways in which we're talking about this are for a new business representative for your team, but these sorts of things apply across your entire team. Your account managers, your customer success managers, your business development or sales development representatives, your marketing team, your product and engineering team. The fun fact is that everybody at QuotaPath is on some sort of variable compensation plan. We believe in variable comp enough that everybody's driven in some way or another, whether that's revenue growth of the business or what have you. So this is applicable not just to kind of the standard view of an account executive, but actually your entire go-to-market team as well.
And I at one point proposed a plan where engineers would get paid based on the number of lines of code they wrote, and that was immediately shut down. Apparently that is not what you want to do, because that's how you end up with a code base that is just unnecessarily large. So then I proposed based on the fewest lines of code, and that didn't work either. So anyway, we most people in the company are compensated based on revenue growth, which makes sense. So let's now that we've taken the first 15 minutes here or so to talk about the standards with which you build any compensation plan, which is to say how much, for what, and how. Let's take a quick deep dive into how to actually build a plan for an account executive. And so when we say account executives, that's kind of our catch-all term for a new business sales rep. I understand that different organizations call them different things. But when I say account executive, I mean somebody who's responsible for closing new business. So when we think about how much, we need to answer OTE. And I put a bunch of question marks here, and I also say it doesn't really matter. And what I mean by that is it varies so much by industry, by location, by experience level, that I can't give you exactly how much. There's no easy formula to figure out exactly how much to pay those people. But that's also not really what we're interested in, because what we're interested in doing is designing a compensation strategy and a compensation plan around a set of metrics, and then including those and using that to in conjunction with the on-target earnings to figure out a specific plan. With that said, I do include some numbers here. So these come from Betts Recruiting, which is, I think I saw a couple people in the chat there from Austin, but they're an Austin, Texas-based recruiting agency. Carolyn Betts is a dear friend of ours, runs Betts Recruiting. They put out a really great compensation guide, linked at the bottom there. Feel free to check it out. But they do some really great work there, providing different experience levels and different locations for account executives. Oops, sorry. There we go. All right, pay mix. This is the slide that I was trying to flip through to really quickly. But Ryan, what's your take? Why did we land on 50-50 as the base to variable here? Why not 100% variable, or why not 70-30 or 80-20?
Yeah, so there's a couple different reasons that I see. I think that the first, I mean, why not 100% variable versus base is that you need to have some sort of component of things that are required for doing your job at the company, which are, you know, keeping your pipeline up to date, or like actually just taking demos, or even learning more about the product and going to internal team meetings. I mean, there's definitely, we feel strongly there's like a value to a base salary component in terms of the team to earn. And then from a 50-50 perspective, that does, from a mathematical perspective, make, you know, the burden of additional earning and the math very easy to digest within the organization. You can set up your quota to OTE ratio, and you can use, you know, bit of a plug here. You can use our CompHub tools, our free CompHub tools in the market, to actually model some of this out, which we'll talk about in a bit as well. But the 50-50 split allows you to kind of basically model out effectively what your growth in comp is going to be as you close deals in a way that's really transparent and tied to that kind of quota to OT ratio. Those are some of the major things that I'm interested to see if there's anything you'd add there, Graham.
The thing that I would add, no, and you're spot on about, like, there are parts of your job that you have to do that it doesn't make sense, you know, that are not closing deals, and that's what the base salary is there for. Another interesting thing that people don't really talk much about is that it can be very risky to the organization to have somebody on 100% variable and 100% base. You know, if they're on 100% base, they're not incentivized to do a ton of, you know, go above and beyond. Now, obviously, people are intrinsically motivated as well, and they want to do a good job, but 100% variable can be really risky as well for an organization, because they're on 100% variable, that rate that you're paying them has to be substantially higher. And if you're paying that substantially higher, then as they overachieve what is expected of them, they're getting paid substantially more. If somebody on a 50-50 split hits 200% of their quota, not to do quick math here, but like, if they're just on flat rate, they're only being paid 150% of their on-target earnings. Whereas if it's 100% variable, they hit 200% of quota, they're being paid 200% of their on-target earnings. So it can be very expensive and risky for an organization.
A couple of questions we had come in here, Graham, which I think we can probably address live because they're relevant to the slide. So one, and I'll take a stab at the first one, was sales supportive roles. So like sales ops, rev ops, et cetera, like what a sort of base and variable would look like for that type of role. I tend to like from a operational perspective in which they're not owning the deal itself and like not directly in control of the deal itself, that typically is probably in an 80 to 90 base, 10 to 20% variable for like one of those ops style roles, because they are doing so many other things that are more kind of like broadly supporting the business versus not just, but mainly focusing on pipeline and deal conversion. I do tend to like them being variably comp. So I typically recommend, an 80-20 or a 90-10 for a member of an ops team. What is really interesting, one thing I would recommend is it really depends on how your ops team is also structured. If you're in a sales ops team, which you're supporting a go-to-market team, like a new business team specifically, I would think about tying that team member to like a new business target. But like our RevOps team here at QuotaPath is responsible for supporting not just our new business teams, but also our kind of customer experience, renewals, upsells, expansions, that sort of thing. So I actually like tying that team to like more net new ARR because we're so focused as a group, not only on adding new business, but expanding our current business and reducing kind of downgrades and churn. So one of the metrics that I love the best in terms of a comp plan for somebody who's probably a little bit further out of that scope of control is a net new ARR target versus solely a new business target, for example. I don't know, Graham, if you have other thoughts there.
No, I think that the way that you laid it out earlier, where like scope of control, how much control they have, or how much they can impact the actual outcomes. I always believe that for organizations and for variable components here. So like an SDR has less control over the outcome of that revenue. So base is a higher percentage, and the same goes for sales ops, rev ops, etc.
And then Kimberly was asking about different base and variable rates for different types of employees. For European employee, like different regions of employees. So she was asking different base and variable mixes for like European employees, for example. I tend to think it holds pretty true across markets, the base variable mix, like for a new business rep, but I'm not sure if you thought something differently there. Graham.
There are certainly areas, regions where it is a higher base component. So generally I see like in the Nordic regions, it tends to be a little bit of a higher base component. Whereas in the UK, they tend to be pretty similar to the US and Canada, which is the 50-50. And I know that really across the world, there are different things as well. So in Asia, even within Asia, there are several different, obviously different countries have different standards. So in Singapore, they're much closer to the US 50-50, whereas in Vietnam, it's different. So there certainly are different mixes based on the place, but it's hard to refer to Europe or Asia as one homogeneous entity.
And we're also happy to talk about in more detail if you want to chat through that, like what we're seeing with some of our customers as well. And yeah, to Nick's point, it's got a company he works with is considering abolishing variable altogether. So from Graham's perspective, from a Nordic region perspective, that does happen. And it's really a question of what you're trying to drive outcomes for the business. So I think those are the two questions, Graham. We can keep moving on.
Awesome. Cool. This is, again, just a larger version of that chart. 56% of organizations we work with who answered the survey have a 50-50 split. There are some that have 100-0, some that have 0-100. But for the most part, nearly everyone is in that 40 to 60% range, with most people being 50-50. So now we know how much to pay an account executive for what. So there are a bunch of different ways to set quotas. I always recommend using at least two of them and trying to triangulate this. So number one is guessing. Don't do that. Don't just guess. Don't just do the quota of that's what it's always been, or that's what the last person figured out, or that's what we feel like is right, finger in the wind. So I hear that a shocking amount. I'm sure that companies, some of the folks in here have experienced that. Why it's important not to guess is that, again, this is a stat from the Comp Trends survey that we did. 91% of organizations fail to hit sales quota. And two of the major things that they gave were misaligned sales activities and unrealistic quotas. And so you don't want to have an unrealistic quota. You want to make sure that it's an accurate quota. And you also want to make sure that you're aligning that quota with what activities you want your reps to do.
I think the big thing here that I think a lot about is, so I help design our comp plans here at QuotaPath. And the two things I always think about would be, if this was my quota, how would I feel about it? Like if I had to support my family, or like this is a big component of how my take home pay, like how would I feel about receiving this? And that gut check, I will tell you, like does do a really good job of you deciding whether you think this is like a fair and reasonable quota or not. And then the other thing I think a lot about is name of the company, QuotaPath. Like, what is your actual path to quota? Like, how many demos does this person have to run? What does the ASP of those demos have to be? What does your win rate have to be? Like, walking through the mechanics of that to show, and Graham's going to dive into this in more detail, but you don't want to just pick a number 300K. It's okay, what does a person have to do in order to get to that number? And we'll dive into that in more detail, but that's something to keep in the back of your mind as well.
Yeah, and that's a good call out, Ryan, is that guessing is bad, but gut checking is okay. Using it as how to set the quota is not good, but using it to make sure that feels like an okay number is important. So one of the primary ways, especially in SaaS, people talk about is quota to on-target earnings. So the idea is that you have $100,000 on-target earnings. Again, you're on a 50-50 there. You take that number, that 100K on target, and you multiply it by some number. So maybe it's 3, maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10. And that gives you an annualized quota. Not saying that you should do an annual quota. We'll talk about that in a second, but that gives you some number. So you can see here, SaaS, bottom right there, SaaS is actually quite a bit lower than services because of that recurring component of SaaS. You know that if you close a deal in 2023, hopefully they'll continue being customers in 24, 25, 26, et cetera. So you can have lower targets there. But then it also really depends on the revenue range of the company. As a company scales, as they have more revenue, you have to pay for more things. And you also get more support. You have more managers, you have more enablement, you have more marketing, you have more customer success, and all of those things have to be paid for. And so each sales representative is responsible for closing more revenue as a company size increases. The kind of golden standard of 5X is the SaaS golden standard. This data is also from a time from the beginning of this year when we were setting quotas for this year, which expectations were a lot higher in 23 than what we saw. And so we're seeing actually a decrease of these numbers, and sometimes a whole point, so instead of a 5.6, it may be a 4.6 going into 2024.
One thing I will say here, Graham called it out as well, which is that as your revenue grows, the quota to OT ratio grows because of the requirement of closing more deals and driving more revenue from an individual rep perspective. But he also called out like the increased support that team member is going to get. Maybe it's different tools for prospecting and generating outbound pipeline. Maybe it's better enablement. Maybe it's signing up for certain classes, what have you. And so as you think about rolling out your new comp plan for next year, I'm sure many of you are thinking about increasing your quota to OT ratio as a function of your revenue growth. Like that is something that leaders think about often is, hey, we were a $4 million business at the start of this year. We've grown to a $10 million business or $8 million business. So we're going to raise our quota to OT ratio. My biggest piece of advice in doing that is walk the reps through what is changing for them and like how the org is supporting that for them. The worst that you can do is just say to a rep, we're raising your quota to OT ratio, which mathematically inverse, just a heads up, reduces their commission rate. So if you're reducing their commission rate, you have to tell them why and what you're doing to better support them. And that's how you get the team more about it.
Yeah, that's a really great call out. And as we saw in the stat, again, I'm not going to try to flip back there, but a large percentage of people struggle with communicating those comp plans to their reps. There we go. Historical performance is another way of looking at it. What percentage of our reps hit quota? What percent of our reps do we want to hit quota? What do we think is possible? What is total quota attainment? So what is possible? What have people done in the past? And what percent of your team do you want to hit quota are the three questions that I would recommend asking if you're setting based on historical performance. Of course, if you're a new company, you don't, or you have strange historical data, those first few questions are a little bit more challenging to answer. And so it may be more based on industry or estimates. So as long as you acknowledge that it's based on estimates and adjust accordingly, that's acceptable as well. It's not guessing, it's educated analysis-based assumptions.
And one of the questions you might be asking yourself here is, I'm a new company, or I'm rolling out a new product, or I'm moving into a new region. How do I set the quota for that like new venture? And our biggest piece of advice here is to be more generous with the commission rate that you offer, but narrow the accelerating scope, right? So if you're kind of like a ramping plan, right? So if you're rolling into a new region, or you're selling a new product line or something, or you're a new company, potentially you pay a higher commission rate to your team members because they're going through that exploratory journey with you. And that gives you the opportunity, if you're giving them a higher percentage of money on deals, to maybe not have as many accelerators for above attainment, or like just more narrow in how much you expect to pay them, so that they're going to earn more naturally, but they're not also going to kind of blow your accelerators out of the water either.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working with a company right now where they were like, well, we want to cap our commission, of course. And I was like, whoa, why do we want to cap our commission? And they were like, well, we don't want somebody to sell, to hit 500% of quota, and we have to pay them, a ton of money. And I'm like, wouldn't it be great if somebody hit 500% of quota? Like, maybe we want to, temper it down a little bit, or, take them back down to their base rate, but 500% of quota is awesome. Like, we should be celebrating that. No cap. That's right. Thank you, Brittany. This one's for my finance folks on the call, if we have any. Taking a look at the financial model, generally, at the beginning of the year, you have estimates as to what you want to sell, how much you want to sell, where you want to be by the end of the year, breaking it down into number of reps and number of, to Ryan's point, looking at, okay, if somebody has a quota of $50,000 a month and the average contract value is $5,000, well, that means that they're going to be closing 10 deals per month. Now, how many, what's the close rate there? If it's a 10% close rate, that means they need to be running 100 demos per month. Like, is that realistic? Or do we actually need to hire more people in order for us to handle those demos, in order for us to hit those targets?
And one of the biggest pitfalls I see people take here is they have a financial plan they want to hit, and they say, okay, I'm just going to throw more reps and quota at the problem, and that naturally is going to like solve this problem, right? So sales teams balloon, and you start to have more people, but then their attainment starts to go down. The biggest concern to keep in mind there, especially as you like, there's obviously a training cost and enablement cost for growing those teams, but there's also, you have a base salary cost there too, right? So like there's an efficiency perspective for how you are actually operating and hitting that financial plan, which is something as you're talking to your finance team to really keep in mind. It's would you rather have 4, 6, or 8 reps selling the same, if they sold the same amount of revenue? Well, mathematically for the business, you'd likely rather have 4, unless, even if their rate is more accelerated, they're still not going to blow past the like base salary cost for 6 or 8 as an example. So that's, I think, a historical way of modeling this was, okay, I need to hit $1 million in revenue this quarter, so I need X many reps at this much attainment to get there. And my push is, why don't you actually go through how much pipeline do you have, how much is generated, how much could be generated with a new person, and actually walk to the math of is this achievable or not, versus just taking a target and an attainment number and then just backing your way into it that way.
And not necessarily a counterpoint on this, but another point on this is that in times of both feast and famine for sales organizations, it's actually the worst possible outcome for you a lot of the time. And so in situations of feasting there, what I mean by that is you have a sales team of 4, all of whom are hitting 150% of their quota. That can obfuscate or hide the underperformers. The people who actually are not doing a very good job, who do have a much lower close rate than everybody else, but they're hitting 120% versus the top performers hitting 160% quota. The same thing goes in famine there, where when nobody on the team is hitting above 50% quota, your top performers are going to leave. It doesn't matter if you're hitting 50% and nobody else is getting anywhere close to you, you're still only hitting 50%, and that feels bad. And so that's the importance of also just like setting an intelligent quota and setting a good quota for people, but also hiring accordingly, to Ryan's point. It's very dangerous, very, very tight rope you have to walk. And then when it comes to quota setting frequency, so we've established how much we want that quota to be, but not everybody's going to be on an annual quota. So I have 2 rules that I recommend, which is that you want the shortest possible quota frequency. And you say, okay, Graham, well, then we'll just do the daily quota you mentioned earlier. Those are great. We'll do a daily quota. But no, it has to be a quota frequency that allows you to close at least 5 deals during that period. So in this example here, we have a $50,000 quota. Now, if this is a $50,000 monthly quota, but my average contract value is $30,000, then on average, I'm closing 1.5 deals. And either I'm closing 1 deal and hitting 60%, or I'm closing 2 deals and hitting 120%. Well, I don't know if somebody's doing a good job if they every other month flip back and forth between 60 and 120, 60 and 120. So in that situation, I would say, okay, monthly is not right for us. Let's extend it out to quarterly. And then can you close 5 deals during that time period? Yes. All right, then we're on a quarterly quota. The example 2 here, $10,000 deals, great. Each deal there, $10,000. You can close 5 deals on average during that month. Allows you to determine if somebody's doing a good job, and it also allows you to do good decelerators and accelerators.
I dropped to a lot of people are going to want to play around with this themselves. And naturally, if I was in this webinar, I'd be like, okay, how do I figure out how to do this myself? So I just dropped our CompHub tool, and I picked an account executive single rate plan just so you could play around with these numbers yourself based on the ARR of your business and the quota to OT ratio and your deal cycle and your size. These are all the variables you think about when you decide, okay, do I want my team on quarterly or monthly quotas, for example?
Yeah. Patrick asked about if anybody has done an empirical study on setting a quota versus not setting a quota. This question gets asked a lot. It's like, well, why would we even have a quota? Like, we don't know how much somebody's going to sell, whatever, just like sell whatever you can. I have not done an empirical study. I have read an empirical study on it from one of our competitors. So I'm not going to recommend I'm not going to tell you exactly where to find it, but I have read an empirical study on it, which is too bad because you know what? Go find it. Please go find it. I actually don't remember exactly where it came from, but because it is important. I am a big proponent of actually setting a quota. I think that having something to seek to achieve and measuring your progress towards it is very important. And so there is a study that I've read about measuring your progress towards goals. And it has to do with, oh, there we go. Look, looks like Corn Fairy did it. Oh, Corn Fairy did it. Oh no, we're fine then. Corn Fairy, great. But the setting goals and measuring your progress towards that, the more often you measure your progress towards goals, the more likely you are to achieve those goals. And so this goes towards like saving money and weight loss and sales. The more you know what your target is, what is expected of you, and the more often you're measuring your progress towards it until you get to kind of an obsessive level, the more likely you are to achieve it.
We had a couple other questions, Graham. Brittany was talking about mid-market and she has a mid-market and an enterprise team. Would you split kind of quotas in this as well? And I think, Brittany, my answer there is it depends on the different variables that each of these teams are operating with, specifically average contract value and like days to close are like the big things I would think about. So if you have a mid-market team and an enterprise team that have, in a period, a mid-market team is closing 5 deals a month, but an enterprise team is closing 5 deals a quarter, for example, you'd want your mid-market team to be on monthly quotas and your enterprise team to be on quarterly, for example. So I've advised a lot of our customers to say, hey, it's a deal frequency and average contract value thing. If you have more of an SMB or a mid-market team that's closing deals faster, put them on you basically want them to be on the shortest period possible, to Graham's point, where they can close 5 deals in that period. So that's my recommendation there. And that's pretty standard practice. Different teams based on seniority or based on the types of deals they're selling, doing that as well. Nick had a question about cumulative year-to-date attainment, Graham, in terms of like volatility with long sales cycles. Interested to see your take on cumulative year-to-date attainment.
Yeah, cumulative quotas are, I struggle with cumulative quotas. A big reason why I like the fact that a quota resets back to 0 on the first day of every month, quarter, half or year, is that it allows people to not like rest on their laurels, while also allowing them to forget the past. And so my concern with a cumulative year-to-date quota is that if on the first month of the year I blow it out of the water, then I've hit my annual quota, or I've hit my target, and every deal I close there on out is just considered gravy, which means that I'm not super worried about continuing to sell that year. But the same thing can happen for if I just have a bad Q1. I have a bad Q1, and because I've had a bad Q1, it's almost impossible for me to dig myself out of that hole. And I'm stuck in this kind of middling attainment for the rest of the year. Now I may overperform a little bit, but it still turns into just like a poor performing year. And so I think that if you have pretty regular consistency across months or quarters, then a cumulative quota is okay, but it can bring out the worst in people in both underperformance and overperformance.
I also, with cumulative quotas, I worry about either optimism or pessimism within your team and how that impacts their ability to close throughout a period. So if you have a really optimistic rep or an over-optimistic rep who gets halfway through the year and is like, oh, well, don't worry, I'm going to close, I'm at 50% of attainment for, or maybe I'm 25% to my annual quota halfway through the year, right? So they're in a huge hole. They might say, oh, don't worry, I'm going to close a bunch of deals like later in the year. And you, as their leader, like may not be paying as close attention to it because you have all this time left, right? So like month 1, 2, 3, you still have a lot of time left. Month 4, you have a lot of time left, what have you. And so it worries me about urgency for your business and pulling deals forward within your business. So my recommendation would just be have the shortest, possible quota that you're comfortable with, that you can close that number of deals in. One thing that I will say is if you are controlling for seasonality, that is a kind of a different conversation, right? So if year-to-date attainment, the challenge is that you have a really seasonal business. Let's say you do all your deals in Q4 and Q1, for example. Maybe then you say, okay, I'm going to have a blended 4x quota to OT ratio for the year. But in Q4 and Q1, that's going to jump up to a 4.5x. I'm going to have a lower commission rate because I naturally get a lot more deals then. And then in Q2 and Q3, I'm going to do like a 3.5x. I'm actually going to have a lower quota. So like if you want to if you're looking to smooth out attainment throughout the course of the year, you could do something like different quotas by quarter as a way to smooth out the attainment and still have that urgency. My concern with year-to-date attainment is that you lose a lot of the urgency on deals in that period.
Yep, totally agreed. All right, we only have 15 minutes left. I want to make sure that we chat through some more of these things. Quota setting frequency, again, as your sales price increases and as your sales cycle lengthens, you're more likely to do quarterly or annual plans. And so then now I'm not going to go through each one of these. Again, these slides will be shared out. But just a few of the different examples of what I often see for commission plans. Single rate commission, say what you will. I know that I work for a commission tracking platform company, but single rate commission is beautiful if you can do it. The issue is it doesn't allow for very much nuance. It doesn't allow for accelerators and decelerators. It doesn't allow for different contract lengths. If all you're doing is selling one simple product at a very standardized price, I think it does work, but for most companies, unfortunately, it doesn't work, even though it's very simple. Commission with accelerators. this is a tiered structure. This allows you to say anything until you hit your quota gets paid out at one rate, and then anything above that quota gets paid out at a different rate. Now, there are two different types of accelerators. There are ones that are retroactive and ones that are not retroactive, or tax bracket style and back to $1. But this is a non-retroactive plan, which is to say anything above 100%, you get paid 15% on. A retroactive plan would say, as soon as you cross over 100%, you get paid 15% on everything you've closed this month, quarter, year, whatever. Both of them have their advantages. Personally, I prefer those non-retroactive ones where it's anything above quota, you get paid 15% on. I see you nodding along, Ryan. Are you in a?
Yeah, it also allows you to make that rate much more compelling. Real is the big thing. So you're probably not going to want to Renee's question, why? You're not going to likely be able to give as high of a kind of mouth-watering rate to your team members if it's retroactive. So let's say 0 to 100%, your base rate is 15% commission, right? And you want to jump that up to, you want to give it 101 to 150% rate. If you are going to 100, or maybe it's 100 to 200% just for simple math, right? If you're at 15% at first, and then you jump that to like 25%, let's say, in a retroactive, then you're paying a blended 20% across all of your revenue. You have to retroactively kind of apply that. And so what I typically like is you likely can't make that big of a jump, because it's going to raise the floor of the entire commissions that you pay. Whereas if you only have a rate for over 100% attainment, that's not retroactive, you can likely make that number a lot higher and much more exciting for the rep in question.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I see that Renee also says in here that we do a retroactive 100 and then 120. A retroactive plan does have a push toward those numbers. I have had situations where I've had plans, and guess what? I ended at exactly 100%, or maybe $500 above 100%, because that is the thing that matters. And so if that's the thing that matters a lot to you, is having people hit that quota, then a retroactive plan does highly encourage. Yeah, the rep finds a way to get up to that 100%. Now, oftentimes what that means is discounting and selling bad deals and forcing deals in when they shouldn't be. And then also to Ryan's point, yeah, it's only an extra 1%. Reps, that's not mouthwatering. That's not sexy to go from 10% to 11%. If they see exactly how much money that translates to, it can be exciting. But a lot of times reps look at it and they're like, 10 to 11, whatever. Whereas like 10 to 20 or 10 to 15 is like, oh, whoa, okay, that's exciting. And it also encourages people to go above and beyond. And then somebody made the point as well. Kimberly adds a lot of challenge to the payroll side. Completely agreed, especially from the finance side. Again, I think I have one finance person in here when it comes to like closing the books. If you've already amortized the commission expense for January, and then you go back and say, oh, well, they hit 100% of their quota in December, so we have to go back to January and add another $1,000 commission expense. Your finance person's not going to love that. And that's the only time I'll say amortize on this. I promise. Decelerators, however, this is where actually, interestingly, I am okay with the retroactive component when it comes to a decelerator here, where you say you only get 5% until you hit that 50%, and that's that kind of minimum bar of acceptable performance. Once you've achieved that minimum bar of acceptable performance, you're into your standard commission rate.
And one note is this can really protect you from a finance perspective in terms of paying a very high cost of sale on really low attainment. So let's say you have a rep who, if you have a standard like rate, 0 to 100%, you just pay 10%, and you have a rep, maybe your quota is 100K and your rep closes like 5K, for example, then you're paying a base plus salary or a base plus variable, a very high, basically the percentage of their take home is going to be very highly based. And so your cost of sale is in a really tough spot. So one of the things we recommend doing or considering is if you can have that rate, but have maybe 0 to some rate, 0 to 25% attainment, you are at a much lower rate. 25 to 50, you're at rate, Y, 51 to 75, 75 to 100, for example, where the blended rate is your target rate across 100%, but it's stair steps so that you have to hit certain milestones. To kind of Renee's point on driving towards these milestones, you have to hit certain milestones in order to unlock that accelerated rate and actually like make the money you're looking for.
Contract term multipliers, I think I called it out. These are becoming increasingly common, where you get one rate for a 1-year deal, and then you get an additional percentage points, 3 percentage points or whatever on a 2-year deal and even a 3-year deal. This is something that we do. And I know, Ryan, you spearheaded the initiative behind this, and we saw some really great results.
Yeah, and we've seen this with a lot of our customers as well. I think the thing with something like contract term multipliers or something else is you have to understand what you're trying to drive for the business. Like first and foremost, like what are the big metrics you're trying to improve in your business this year? And for we rolled this out at QuotaPath. We wanted more of our ARR in multi-year contracts, 2 and 3-year contracts, and so we gave our business development team additional dollars if they brought on ICP demos, because ICP demos tend to are more likely to sign multi-year contracts. We gave our sales team additional points if they close multi-year deals as a percentage of typically of the year 1 ARR is how we think about it, or the ARR versus the total contract value. That's how we've thought about it. So they see the higher rate that they're closing. And then we gave our customer experience team, we basically gave our customer experience team a percentage of the revenue if they convert contracts from 1 year to 2 year or 2 year to 3 years. So everybody is like uniquely aligned, paired together from a business development team to an AE team to a CX team to drive multi-year. And we saw a big pop in the percentage of our revenue coming from multi-year deals. So the big thing I will say is anything like contract term multipliers or any type or outbound deals or ICP deals or deals greater than 50K, whatever you're looking to drive for your business, I would write down what that metric is first that you're looking to improve, percentage of ARR that is this, or percentage of bookings that are this. And then from there, figure out how you're going to roll that into the comp plan so that each of your team members is equally incentivized to drive that change for your business.
Yep. And that actually goes to both Renee and Kimberly's points here. What is the industry best practice for contract term multipliers? And you have to think about your customer success team as well. And I totally agree. And so I tend to, Kimberly, to answer your question first, I tend to think about it as a multiplier. So I see anywhere from like if a 2-year deal, we pay 2x the commission rate for a 2-year deal, we don't pay any extra, or 1.1x or 1.25x. Generally, it depends on what your renewal rate is. What is your renewal rate? I work with some customers who are like, we have a 99.99% renewal rate. And then you also have to think about upsells and uplifts and price increases. If that same company with a 99.99% retention rate also generally sees a 5% price increase upon renewal, no, I'm not going to do 2-year deals. I'm going to pay less on 2-year deals than I pay on 1-year deals. Like, I don't want any 2-year deals because it's harmful for the organization. But if you're a standard SaaS company and you have 85% retention, but you also have a 5% price increase, then you have to do the math on that and say, okay, well, is it worth us paying 1.5x the rate? Well, we don't have to pay the customer success manager, the account manager on year 2. So that can partially go towards it. But then also we lock in that revenue, but we lose the possibility of a price increase. So I think about it as a multiplier, and there are a lot of things that go into exactly what that multiplier is.
Graham, we've about 5 minutes left, so
Yeah.
I'm just making sure from a time
Good news is that was the last one there. We do have Dylan, I saw that you had sent a note out about next week's session.
Yeah, so everybody, we're following this up next week with a 2-1. Gonna go a little bit more in depth. You get to pick Graham and Ryan's brain a little bit more. We are opening up to do a live comp plan breakdown as well. So if anybody has any looming questions about the comp plan, or would like, the two Maestros here to break it down and help you out, I dropped my email in the chat, but it's Dylan, DYLAN at revopscoop.com. Send those comp plans over. We'll pick a few to go through, and we'll help out on any fronts that we can. And then also with that as well, one of the questions that we did get that I think, we've talked about finance, we've talked about RevOps, we've talked about success, we've talked about sales. How do you guys find is the best way cross-departmentally to get buy-in and alignment on comp plans as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of kind of buying on comp plans, I think there's three big things that I really think a lot about. I think the first is when you're actually designing the comp plan itself. I tend to interview the people who are actually going to be paid on the comp plan to understand what they like and what they don't like. You want to go to an individual rep and say, hey, what do you like about your comp plan? What do you not like? What would you change? Don't promise to make any changes, but interview them to get them bought into the why, and get what they're very excited about, and take those notes. And if you can give them small wins, give them small wins, right? If they were paid quarterly, but on the same plan, they want to be paid monthly from like a cash flow perspective, and you can make that happen. Like, what are the types of wins you can give them? Then typically I like to spend time actually documenting the plan on how they're going to earn their money. So walking them through in a team meeting examples of how they're going to earn, and what that looks like and what changed year over year. And then finally, it's really calling out how the business is going to support them. So I typically, like for a sales team, for example, bring in our marketing team and bring in our CEO and bring in others in the business to walk through, okay, here's what we're doing to invest in you, and like, here's why you're going to be successful, and walk them through the math, right? So the easiest thing to do and track the math. Hey, you have to run 10 demos a month. They have to have a 15K ASP, and then you have to close at a 20% rate. Here's your historicals. Here's why you can do this. And here's what your path to earning money is. And so that they can track like each month, hey, I've only run 8 demos. I got to do more outbound, or my ACV is low, or like, how do they track how they're pathing towards this as well?
Perfect. Thanks. And I think all the other questions that we pretty much got from the community, y'all hit on and answered. So great job on that. But I want to thank everybody coming in. We got about 1 minute left, but I want to thank everybody coming in. There's a ton of more questions coming in. I will pull all these questions, and I'll give them to the QuotaPath team and have them ready for the next call as well. But I know Graham and Ryan both dropped their links in there. I hope y'all grabbed it and follow up with any questions that you have. And we are looking to see you on the next one next week. And all right. And Graham, Ryan, thank you as always. Always a pleasure having you.
Thanks so much.
Everybody have a good day.
Thanks.
See you next week.